Hey there, guys. What's up? Me again. Feel compelled at the moment to make a video. Because I see a lot of videos, and this is coming from a lot of sources, but someone sent me one in particular. Not going to mention the name because I do not want to draw attention to this person. I don't want people flaming this person. I don't, this is not a personal thing. I'm not going to be trying to start drama or beef, but these are some serious, problems and misconceptions I see a lot of people throwing around, and especially in light of the new movie. And so I kind of want to touch on that. Um, Basically, nonstop anymore, I'm hearing about basically why Vegeta deserves or has to be or is entitled to be the hero of Fukkatsu no F. And I gotta say, none of it, and I do mean none of it, holds up. Here's part of the reason why. The entire problem with this notion that he's entitled stems from primarily from what I've seen three things. Number one, the badass factor. He's just such a badass character, and he's never gotten his own movie to show how badass he is, and he's always been undercut because he never gets to kill the main bad guy. Guess what? You're going to be very hard pressed to find a single anime movie where anyone but the protagonist kills the big bad. Even if someone else gets a major, and I do mean major, assist in, it's still going to be the protagonist that kills the big bad. That being said, Vegeta has had his opportunity to shine more than once, and he has indeed gotten his share of kills. He's gotten his share of kills in series. He's gotten his share of kills in movies. Return of Cooler, for example. He shows up, blows the living crap out of Cooler, beats the crap out of one of his metal forms. He and Goku then, he regenerates, but still, he blew the crap out of it. He and Goku have to go into overdrive to finally kill the thing. Then they both overpower, overcharge, and destroy Cooler in the Big Getty Star. And Vegeta's actually the one that finally crushes the chip that's got Cooler's memory in it. So when you get downright technical, he got that kill. So yeah, he actually has. When it comes to, oh golly gee, let's see here, Super Android 13, Vegeta actually managed to kill one of the androids in that film. He managed to completely obliterate Android 19. He managed to kill Jace. He did kill Nappa, Raccoon, and Berter, but that was because they had already been beaten, granted, and he just finished them off. But still, got kills. He beat the royal crap out of Ginyu. He was beating Ginyu. There was no question about that. And he actually was plenty strong when he first faced Frieza. Frieza actually thought that perhaps there was a chance he wasn't bluffing when he said he had a chance to win. It actually worried Frieza. And then Vegeta had to be stupid enough to goad Frieza into transforming because he believed that as it was now it would be too easy, and he wanted to face him in his true form just to prove that he was nothing compared to him. Vegeta also managed to basically have an epic death versus Majin Buu, in which he tried to take him with him. Vegeta also managed to actually be a major assistance both in the killing of Cell and in the killing of Majin Buu. Vegeta has had plenty of time to shine, people. Let's not even try to get that twisted. Acting like just because he hasn't killed the main villain in the movie, even though technically he has, that's ridiculous. Okay. Now you want to talk people who really got shafted? Literally everyone else. Especially in Tree of Might. I mean, they even got their own grunts to fight. All of them. Okay? And what happens? Every single one of them, from Chaozu on through friggin' Piccolo, pretty much. I think the only two who actually managed to beat the two they were fighting were Piccolo and Gohan. The rest all get bodied, and Goku has to come up. And then Goku, of course, manages to take out the grunts that they were fighting in pretty much one or two hits. Now that was getting shafted, okay? That was getting undercut. You want to talk someone who really, really gets shafted in the movies? Krillin, literally. Even enemies that, frankly, he should have no problem fighting. he winds up getting hit and knocked out, even against an enemy that he should not, again, have trouble fighting. He goes up against friggin' those robots in Return to Cooler. Goes up against the robots, and what happens? One of them still manages to slam him in the head before he punches through it. And then he has to run while the others are, again, slamming into the ground. Now, call me crazy, but if he was able to seriously take one out in one punch, why does he have to run? See, that's the thing. The movies shafted him especially hard because they would often portray him out of character. He'd panic very easily. He'd run off and try to dodge, and never fight even against an enemy that, frankly, he could take out in one solid hit. Meanwhile, Piccolo and Gohan are taking them out no problem. You see in my point here, the shafted excuse really is not applicable to Vegeta. Vegeta is one of the last people that is applicable to. Okay? Now, moving on. The number 2 argument that I see all the time is the fact that, and this is what really gets me, Vegeta is the only character in the series with any kind of real character development. I see that parroted so much, and it's a giant crock. And let me explain why. Vegeta's development, his change into being anything other than a self-centered, psychopath, doesn't come until the very end of the fight with Cell, when he has to finally admit that he has some fondness for his son, and seeing his son killed finally goads him into action. It was one of the first times Vegeta ever actually did something selflessly. Up until that point, it was all about him, so much so that he even helped Cell achieve his perfect form just so that he could fight him in it. Okay? It's because he believed that Cell, again, would be nothing compared to him, an ant, and he could finally show everyone that he was now the strongest in the universe. His entire motivation, right there. Unquestionably, his motivation. Okay? And on top of that, oh my God. You want to talk his actual development? The development where he finally, lets go of everything doesn't come until near the end of the series. On top of that, you're complaining about characters not developing who were in this series long before Vegeta ever showed up. Because guess what? The series doesn't start with Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball Z is not a sequel. It is not a series unto itself. It is not an isolated part of the story. In fact, Dragon Ball Z is still Dragon Ball in the manga. No gap, no split. This is not part 2. This is the other 2/3 of the series. How shocking. And you know what? We have an entire 1/3 of the series where you get to, guess what? You get to watch the main characters grow up. You get to watch Goku grow up and change. You get to watch Krillin grow up and change. You get to see how Yamcha develops. Yes, Yamcha has character development, ladies and gentlemen. He's not just that guy who dies. In fact, arguably, the character with the least amount of character development, and yet some of the most absurd amounts of wanking, in contrast to character development, is Tien. And yet, even he still has some. It's very short and to the point, but it's there. Tien goes from wanting to be the world's deadliest assassin and wanting to kill Goku to avenge his idol, to becoming briefly a student under Master Roshi and wanting to go out, wander the world, and better himself and atone for his sins. Yamcha went from being, a thief, a coward, terrified of girls, to being a very friendly, very outgoing, and, frankly, very popular with the ladies character, who was also not at all selfish. Let's just be real. Yamcha, if there's one thing he's not, is a selfish jerk. Certainly not like he was when he first showed up. And even then, there were little signs that he wasn't fully as selfish as he'd like to believe. When you look at Krillin showed up, he was a spoiled little brat. Well, I wouldn't say spoiled, but he was a snarky little brat. He was sarcastic nonstop. He didn't really trust anyone. He thought he had to look out for himself and only himself. He was not above cheating to do what he thought he needed to do when he was competing with Goku, whatever it took to get ahead. And then we see him mature. We watch him grow. He stops being quite so lecherous. He stops, he abandons the anything goes attitude. He becomes an honest, respectable fighter who wants to better himself. And on top of that, by the end of Dragon Ball even, Krillin's in the point in his life where, yes, he wants a girlfriend, but no, he does not want to necessarily get married. He doesn't think he's ready for it, and he's shocked that Goku's even considering it, considering he and Goku are roughly the same age. And he really doesn't think Goku's ready for it. In the space between that event and the events of Namek, Krillin has grown. He has matured some. He feels like he's ready to settle down. You know what that is? Character development. Is it this epic big old switch from, oh, I'm going to gut you all with a stick to, oh no, you're all my friends? No, it's not. But you know what it is? Character development. A sudden personality shift either. An about face. Heel face turn. That's not necessarily development. And a lot of people like to act like that it requires something almost to that degree to be development. It does not. Goku himself went from being an ignorant little country bumpkin, okay? Knew next to nothing about society, knew next to nothing about people. Didn't care to. Didn't bother him much at all. To learning about the world, learning how to fit in there, learning some social graces, understanding some basic manners, and even though he doesn't have a full grip on it, he at least, when people remind him, knows how to get into the swing of things. He learned how to read, he learned how to write, he learned how to count, he was educated, he became smarter, he learned how to strategize instead of just running in and swinging his fists around. He improved as a character. And no, it's not just his strength, people. I see that so much. It's not. Goku even learned, he developed complex emotion. He understood the pain of loss. He understood what it felt like to lose a friend. He understood the desire for revenge. He had to go through all of that as a kid. And yeah, by the time he grew up, he started to figure out what love was. And yes, when he married his wife, he married her not just because he promised, but because something in his heart told him he wanted to. I mean, he developed all throughout Dragon Ball. And in Dragon Ball Z, he went from being still pretty happy-go-lucky to having to make the ultimate sacrifice to save his family, his son. He died trying to stop the guy who was trying to take his son. Gave his life willingly. That's growing, honestly. That is character development. That is a major growth point. And what happens? He comes back after having prepared for this battle slightly different. Because he knows the weight of responsibility. He knows what it means to, he knows what he's willing to do now. He knows the extent that he's willing to go to protect people. And that's something that weighs on him. But even more so, what that then translates to is when he almost dies from that heart virus. He finds out that there's a future timeline where he died and everything basically went to hell. The entire world is now pretty much a slag heap. And then, to top it off, he almost had it happen again. If he hadn't had that medicine, he would have died, and he still was in a lot of pain, incapacitated, and by the time he woke up, stuff was a lot worse. And so he started, guess what? Thinking of the future. Realizing that I have to get things to the point where they're not this bad without me. And so, when he senses that Gohan is making strides proportionately even greater than his, he starts shifting focus off himself and more into developing Gohan, getting Gohan stronger. Because he knows that that boy has a hidden potential, and it seems that it's certainly starting to peak, so he's trying to bring it out of him. Why? Because that way, even if he can't do anything, Gohan can. He thinks he's preparing for the future. He then also has to learn the hard way, however, that contrary to what he had believed, not everyone thinks like him. His son is not him. His son abhors hurting people. He doesn't like to hurt people. His son is afraid of his own power and what it does to him when it comes out, the rage he flies into, the hate he feels. And it's something that Goku realizes only after making his own son suffer and trying to bring that out of him. And then, to top it all off, when he dies the second time, he opts to stay gone. Why? Because he thought about something Bulma had said. That basically it seems like everything bad that happens indirectly because of Goku. And in a way, she was right. The Saiyans arrive on Earth. Why? Because of Goku. Frieza comes to Earth trying to destroy it. Why? Because of Goku. And if Trunks hadn't shown up there, he might have been too late to actually do anything about it. Ugh. He barely got there in time. When it came to Cell and the androids, they were specifically created to what? Kill him. So he thought maybe it's better and safer for all of you, including my family, the people I was thinking about when I died, the last thing on my mind, my final thoughts being about my family. Be better for them and the rest of the planet if I just stayed gone for a while. And only when he absolutely had to come back, and when he saw that sometimes, even if we think that it's not the best thing in the long run, we have to step in emergencies and, man up and do what we gotta do. And he did. And he came back to fight Boo. And even then it wasn't enough. So he had to learn to cooperate with his biggest rival in order to win. That sounds to me like a bit of character development. And in the last movie, we even found out something about him. We found out that Goku doesn't really like the God power. He wasn't really that happy about it. Though he's more satisfied now that it's actually part of him. But he's still not happy about how he gained it. Because it wasn't something that he was able to do himself. It was not a level of power that he could reach on his own. And because of that, to him, it felt kind of like cheating. And it felt like it wasn't really his. That is where we also learn one of Goku's flaws. He does have a bit of pride, it's just not the same kind as Vegeta's. It's self-pride, it's pride in his work, and the fact that because he didn't work for this, he's mad that he has it. And that's actually a very real condition. There are a lot of people, too, who won't accept charity for that very reason. It's a very interesting thing, and yet it's just completely overlooked because, heard there Goku one-dimensional. No. But, and Piccolo, oh my god, Piccolo! Why does everybody overlook Piccolo? Piccolo went from being evil to being not quite as evil after he was reborn to, he was still evil, he just wasn't quite as ruthless as his father had been. But then, to top that all off, because he finally makes a friend, because he finally experiences kindness on this planet. You have to understand, Piccolo was born from all of Kami's evil thoughts, and Kami gained those evil thoughts growing up on this planet, having seen what people do to each other, having seen, evil, and experienced cruelty, and, those negative thoughts. He forced them out of himself. Took form as Piccolo. Piccolo was made up of that, so that's basically all he thinks is there. It's all he feels is this resentment, and then he finally feels, to be perfectly blunt, the unconditional love of a child. And it changed him fundamentally. He was still a hard ass for a while. He was still very aggressive, and although he, although it was pretty clear he had not really given that up, he still didn't want people to know that he wasn't really that bad anymore. And the idea, honestly, of refusing with Kami, fusing with the side that rejected him, still disgusted him, and yet he was willing to do it for the sake of the planet. Something that he absolutely abhorred, because it had to happen. That is very different from the Piccolo he used to be. So no, character development does not exclusively belong to Vegeta, nor does character development warrant a spotlight film that's all about you, and you alone, or in his case, him, and him alone. No, that is not warranted simply by having character development. And the biggest one that bothers me is this notion that he needs to have this movie to avenge the Saiyans. And because Toriyama, quote, did him wrong when he didn't let him do it the first time. And this is what I mean. This is what happens when you read or watch or look at that series completely one-sided, only focusing on one character. You won't get anything out of it. And yet that's what so many people do. They seem to think it's the Vegeta show, starring Vegeta. Oh yeah, and this guy who's unfairly stronger than him because he gets everything handed to him. I've actually heard people say that. Goku is the one who just gets power handed to him. Vegeta's the one who always worked hard and got nothing. Opposite. Goku was all about hard work. Goku has busted his backside for every inch that he has gained. And you know what? Vegeta is a natural genius. Vegeta can learn things just by seeing them a few times. Vegeta has very large power increases over a very short period of time. It is not a case of Vegeta being denied everything while Goku's handed everything. Now, to focus more succinctly on the Saiyans, why do they need to be avenged? They were evil. They were just following orders, and they were enjoying the living crap out of said orders. They liked what they did. They enjoyed it. Because they got to kill things, they got to fight, they got to sate their bloodlust. It's why they liked it. They were cruel. They don't need avenged. They were just as bad as Frieza. The only difference is, in fact, Vegeta even says, we served you well and faithfully. Vegeta didn't, though. Little Vegeta was conniving to stab Frieza in the back even when he thought Frieza took him in after his planet was destroyed. Little Vegeta was planning to kill Frieza and take his throne back when Frieza was still treating him well, made him one of his top officers. The only people who had equal or higher rank in Frieza's army than Vegeta were Kui, Zarbon, Dodoria, and the Ginyu Force. And the aforementioned were the ones who treated him like children. Everyone else, they were afraid of him. He terrified them. They were afraid to disobey or anger him. And Frieza himself gave him that favored position. Frieza treated Vegeta like a pet, practically. And yet, he was going to betray him. He had no idea that Frieza had slaughtered his people, but he was going to betray him anyway and take his throne. He was just as bad. The reason that Vegeta needed to kill Frieza was to reclaim his birthright. The fact that his people, that he was supposed to ascend to the throne of, rule over, had been killed, had stolen that from him. He was no longer the king. He's frankly no longer a prince. He's the prince of a dead race. That title will literally hold nothing now. except a twinge of pride in what it used to stand for, that he was royalty. It'd be like finding out that your family were once the kings of Saxony, which no longer exists. And you're the Prince of Saxony. Now, it's a little less extreme because it'd be more like if you were there when Saxony was absorbed into the Holy Roman Empire and later Prussia and etc. So it's one of those things where, it's very hard to draw a current modern parallel. But if you were to see your nation, your people, your race, your planet just suddenly disappear, and suddenly, your title, your crown, everything, it meant nothing, then yeah, you'd be angry and you'd want to kill him for that. But then, when you can't, and you have to beg someone who, according to everything you believe, right down to your core, according to every bit of the society you were raised on, according to every fiber of your being, is inferior, has to be inferior, is the lowest of the low. Someone that you had to admit made you bleed and it drove you into an insane rage. When you have to sit there and beg them to do it, to avenge your birthright. That is why Vegeta was so pained when he did it. And that's why he is determined that he still needs to kill Goku later on. It's not until quite a ways later that he finally gives up on that. And really, people, just read the manga, please. I mean, but this notion that Vegeta somehow needs to avenge his race and restore his pride, he's got too much pride already. His pride is something he needs to let go of. It's his fault. And lest you forget, Goku is just as much a Saiyan as Vegeta. He lost his people that day too, and it's something that he can barely understand and he'll never get a chance to. Lost his father, his mother, everything. And the whole scenario wound up turning him against his brother. It's just a really horrible thing for him too, really. Now, it won't sting as much, but the fact that it's there does upset him. Not to mention the fact Frieza also slaughtered his friends. Frieza also slaughtered, entire worlds. Did Goku manage to beat him once before? Yes, he did. Did he kill him? No. In point of fact, the person who actually killed Frieza the last time was Vegeta's son. Which means that, technically speaking, Vegeta's lineage did indeed already avenge the birthright of the royal family. It just wasn't Vegeta, so apparently it doesn't count. Anyways, that's all I wanted to say in this video. I just read the manga, guys, seriously. Beginning to end, just try to follow it. It's not hard. Everyone wants to talk about it like it's this simple little series, and yet nobody can sit there and actually explain it, and that's the hilarity to me. The thing is, no, I'm not going to argue that it's the deepest, most complex series in the world, but there is complexity to it, and there is depth to it, and nobody will look at it. And that's why you wind up with stuff like this. And now you got all these people where unless Vegeta's the one to kill Frieza all by his onesie, unless it's a literal 100% reversal of the manga, and Vegeta acquires some sort of new form, the same way Goku acquired Super Saiyan during that fight, well, they're just going to stomp their feet, take their toys, go home, and talk about how this series sucks so much, aren't they? Let's ignore the fact that we're getting something that people wanted to see for so long in terms of Frieza's empire falling apart, right? We're finally getting to see the fallout of Frieza and King Cold dying. We're finally getting to see what became of his empire, the scraps of it. We're seeing the infighting, we're seeing the desertion, we're seeing the last desperate attempts to hold it together. Planets are uprising and resisting, and they're having to pull out, which is why they feel they need Frieza back in the first place. We are finally getting some we're getting to see the lives of these characters outside of fighting. Something that we never really got a really good look at, and we're finally getting to see it. We're getting to see, Krillin's a cop, Gohan's a dad, and may or may not be a teacher by now. Don't know. I mean, we're gonna get to see all this stuff. We're gonna get to see these characters. We're getting to see Piccolo, Gohan, Krillin, Tien, even friggin' Master Roshi get to do something again. Get to fight. Get to do more than go down in one hit. We're getting that. This is something people have wanted for so long. It's been a major complaint about the series. But you know what? No one seems to care about that. And you know why? Because Veggie Boy might not get to kill Frieza, and everyone's already pissy about that just because Frieza's a different color now. No, he can't have that. We can't establish that the final form is the true form and have anything beyond that being a derivative or alternate of that. No, we had to give him a nice big buff form similar to what Cooler had for everyone to be happy, even though that's not how those transformations work. Oh, they could. Yeah, would have been, you want to talk about originality, and yet you want something similar to something designed by someone else for a movie. You basically want him to rip off someone else's design and stick it in the movie and make it canon, is what you want. And yet you're going to harp on a palette swap being unoriginal. Really? I mean, really? No, we're going to take everything good about this movie, everything about this movie that we're seeing that is good, that is something that everyone, or most everyone, has wanted for so long. We're just going to cast that out because Frieza's a different color and Vegeta might not get to solo him. Even though Goku, who's far stronger than Vegeta at this point, got bodied completely. Nope. That's irrelevant. Vegeta's going to solo, and if he doesn't, we're going to stomp our feet, and we're going to tell them that they can shove this movie that's finally doing what we wanted it to do right up their backsides, right? Right? Because we're the Dragon Ball fandom, and we're freaking stupid. God, this is the dumbest fandom sometimes, I swear. Alright, guys, that's, I'm sorry about that. I had to get that off my chest. This has been bugging me for a while now. That's it for now, and, I will catch you guys later, hopefully after I've calmed down a bit. See ya.